Well, I'm welcoming Joanna via Skype, and Joanna, you're in London, correct?
Indeed.
Okay, awesome. For our Writer Chat Wednesday. And so, Joanna, you recently released your second novel in the Arcane series. The first one was Pentecost, that came out last year. And the newest one is Prophecy. So, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So I'm very excited about Prophecy, and I mean the basic premise is the prophecy from Revelation about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which I think most people know about. And the pale horse is death, and basically death is out to kill a quarter of the world. So I started with that idea, and then I was like, well, how do you actually kill a quarter of the world? Because it's a good premise, and I love weaving in historical details. So this uses a curse in the Devil's Bible, which is this ancient manuscript, and there's a curse that's going to go out to the world. And then I've got this big sort of drug company that are using eugenics and sort of behavioral psychology to try and sort of enact change from that direction. So that's all going on. And then we've got our heroine, Morgan Sierra, who's working with an Arcane agency, a secret British government agency specialising in sort of paranormal, religious, psychological aspects, secrets. And they have to stop the bad guys before it's too late, save the world. You know, it's an action-adventure romp and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely a lot of fun. The protagonist of your series, Morgan Sierra, now she is probably one of my favorite parts of it because, you know, she is no wimpy girl. So, you know, tell me a little bit about her and then also your inspirations for her, because she's a very multifaceted character. You know, she's a very intelligent woman, but she's also got this military background. So how did you come up with Morgan Sierra?
Well, I think for me, you know, she's kind of that alter ego, and from your excitement, I think, you know, those of us who've worked in sort of office jobs, I think we have this sort of fantasy, perhaps, of being Angelina Jolie in Lara Croft, which was kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly, so much fun, you know, kick-ass but smart and sexy, but can thump a guy, you know, with her elbow, and you know, so I wanted to have that kind of character, but then I also wanted to bring in parts of my own knowledge, because I think as writers we do have to bring in something that's, you know, part of ourselves. So I have degrees in psychology and religion, so she is a Oxford University psychologist who then goes to work for this secret agency. So and then Israel, I've been to Israel a lot of times, and I wanted to weave that into the background, because also Israel itself is such a religious place full of, you know, Islam, Christianity and Judaism, so it brings a lot of story with it. So yeah, Morgan is sort of that alter ego fantasy figure who I would love to be, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, I think in my review I said, you know, she can kick a guy in the face, but she looks great in a cocktail dress.
You know? Well, this is it, and I don't look that good in a cocktail dress, but
me neither, especially with one cut up as far as hers were. But well, and you know, Jake. So Jake is her haughty partner, and so I had a question. Do you have any kind of a real life inspiration for Jake?
Well, it's kind of David Boreanaz, you know, from Bones and Angel, or with perhaps a touch of the guy, you know, who Hugh Jackman.
Yes,
Wolverine.
I could totally see Hugh Jackman in this role. Absolutely.
So it's funny you asked that, because I do have pictures of them in my research, so I know kind of what they look like. And also for the movie, Angelina's getting a little old now, but you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but that's totally funny because I could totally picture the two of them in those roles. So that's great. You know, I think you really captured that. Well, then we have, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is it Thanatos?
I say Thanatos, but it doesn't really
Thanatos. Matter. Okay, and it sounds so much better when you say it. It's the nefarious organization that Morgan is battling in both of the first two books. So I was wondering too, that organization, or do you have any real life organizations you've based that on, or is this just totally a creation of your own imagination?
Well, Thanatos is actually a Greek word meaning death, and it's also Sigmund Freud, and I do a lot of psychology. Sigmund Freud had it as one of his sort of instincts, the death instinct. So I wanted to bring that sort of cultish atmosphere to the books. And as you know, there's like a sacrifice scene, you know, sort of dark, you know, not very nice people really. And I guess when we talk about you know, genetic modification and killing lots of people, you know, you do think of Hitler and Stalin and Pol Pot and big nasty names of history. So I wanted to make it more sanitized and turn it into the kind of drug company that could be working for health, and also make it almost understandable, because I mean they want to you know, the planet is overpopulated, clearly, you know,
Right.
we know this, and you know, we should be trying to improve the human race in general, but unfortunately these things can obviously be turned into really nasty aspects. So I wanted to take something that everyone could go, oh, that's almost believable, and make it sort of super bad. So I guess maybe they do exist, but we don't really want to know about it.
Right. You know, it occurred to me this morning as I was thinking about this, that, have you read Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should check it out.
Yeah?
Because there's a sort of a similar thing where they use food, like, quote, healthy food,
Yeah.
but it's packed full of junk and it's really making people sick. So you should check it out. You probably like it. It's funny, but it's a humorous look at the apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't really humorous. You know.
Yeah, Terry Pratchett's
like
funny.
Realistic. Yeah, yeah. So, well, I really enjoy the aspects of your books where you're talking about there's so much religious iconography and symbolism and the art. And I guess maybe my art history background, I'm really pulled to those aspects in all these historic places. So how much time does it take you to research your books? Because there's a lot packed in there.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's interesting. I guess it's always been my interest. So, you know, I'm 36, so I've probably spent the last 20 years immersed in religion, psychology, art history. I go, you know, whenever I go to a new place, I'm in the art galleries, the museums. And I mean, a lot of the ideas I have are based on ideas that have been burning away for years. So for me, so for prophecy, for example, you know, I went to an exhibition in the year 2000 on the apocalypse, and I saw the Dürer woodcuts. Then I saw the Blake pictures, John Martin's images. All of that is in the book, obviously, as you know. All of that I saw, you know, 12 years ago. And then when I got the idea for, you know, the apocalypse, I thought, oh, I'll go and get that book out of the library, the catalogue, and use that as an idea. And of course, that came in strongly. And then yeah, I guess I just use a lot, and then I take that idea and I spin off from there. So I didn't know about the Devil's Bible, but I just watched a documentary on the National Geographic Channel or something, and there it was. And it was like, wow. But then I call it synchronicity, that thing that happens, you know, and Carl Jung, it happens when you think of an idea and then you find it's connected. So I wanted to use Sedlec, which is the bone church, and I wanted to use the Devil's Bible, and then I found out that it actually had been stored there in the 16th century, and I was like, whoa, that's just scary. And it was only a few hundred miles from where Dürer lived. So that was like, it just fitted in. So I love the fact that it's almost not made up.
Right, exactly. And that comes through in your book, absolutely. It definitely feels like it could really happen. You know, that these things really did fit together. So
maybe they do.
Yeah, maybe they do. Right. Yeah, totally cool. Oh, there was this other piece in your novel too. I had heard about the God helmet.
Yes.
I had watched a show. I think it was on Through the Wormhole or something with Morgan Freeman, and so when I read that in your book, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, that's also another very interesting piece of science that you threw in there.
Yeah, well, pretty much everything in there is real. I've just twisted it a little bit. And the God helmet, which if people don't know, it's like it can stimulate your temporal lobe, and then you have visions of God or the devil and things. That's like crazy. I'd love to try it myself.
I'm a little afraid to try it. But it does sound interesting. So you also go to your characters in your books travel all around. So we're moving quickly with Morgan, Sierra, and Jake. And I wondered if you've been to all of the places that you write about.
Well, I've been to a lot of them, but you can tell I've used up a lot of places already because I move around so much. But yeah, I love to travel, and I mean, much of Prophecy was inspired by a trip to Paris with the Paris catacombs, and then the Louvre, and you know, places there. But I haven't been to Sedlec or Palermo, the Mummy place. I want to go to the Mummy place. That's awesome. But as I said, I've been to Jerusalem a lot. But then I use Flickr a lot for research, because Flickr's like personal photos and kind of weird bad focus shots and stuff like that, so you get really the back view of things, whereas the official websites are all kind of official. So I do that, but I actually get story ideas from places. So like, you're in Arizona, right, and in the first book I blow up the biosphere, and I was there in 1995, but that stuck in my head, was like, I want to blow up the biosphere. So yeah, I love travelling, and I actually have story ideas around places I want to go to, because of course now it's tax deductible, has to be done.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Well, it feels very much like you have been there.
Yeah, and I also think that setting is important for symbolism. So, you know, opening at the Western Wall, you know, a guy throws himself off the Western Wall in Jerusalem. That's the holiest place in the world for Jews. And if someone commits suicide, you know, and their blood splatters over the, you know, the earth there, that's just so symbolic. So I want to bring in the symbolism of place as well as the story.
Right. Well, you have some amazing scenes too that are not for the faint of heart, and so you're not afraid you don't sanitize your thriller, and so but I enjoyed that, you know, because again, it feels more realistic, and your opening scenes definitely pull you in. Well, Joanna, I'm interested too in hearing a little bit about your writing process. So you've talked about it a little bit. It sounds like you really get inspiration from places that you've been, and you really put a lot of your lifelong work into your fiction. Can you tell us a little bit more about your writing process? How do you get from idea to a finished novel?
Right, well, I guess right now I'm writing the third one, which is called Exodus, so it's kind of happening again. And I guess the first two I really didn't know, but now I feel like the process is more set, which is I have the idea. So with Exodus, it's going to be around the Ark of the Covenant, which is another area I love. So I do a whole load of research. So I've done that now. I spend, you know, a few weeks or months, depending on, you know, how long it is, thinking about that, brainstorming. So I've got pages of notes printed out here. Then I come up with places and scenes. So I'm like, okay, so Ethiopia, where the Ark might be, all the different places where the Ark might be, for example.
Okay.
Which is cool. And then basically, I've got my characters because I'm writing a series. So although I won't mention, no spoilers in this one, but of course we've got some new characters coming in the third book. Then I write scenes, so I'm basically an outliner, so I've outlined, you know, maybe 30 scenes, then I go into writing, and often, as you know, things happen as you're writing. So, and then I just add layers, so a lot of the art and architecture are layers that I add after I've done the first draft of plot. I come back and I go, how can I make that more of a evocative scene?
Right.
Oh, and then I have two editors, so I make sure I get good editing.
Awesome. So this kind of goes into the next thing that I was going to ask you about, which is where we're going with the Arcane series. So I'm very excited to learn that you've got a third one underway. So Exodus, that sounds really intriguing. Do you see this? We know there's going to be a third. Are there more after that? Is this going to be a series that could be 5, 6, 7 books or more?
Well, at the moment I'm thinking, I like 7 is it's a kind of symbolic number. But basically, because when I came up with Arcane, I really wanted to build a series that goes on. So I look at someone like Kathy Reichs, you know, Patricia Cornwell. Not that I'm in the medical forensic side, but I mean, Patricia Cornwell has like 26 books in her series. I don't know whether I'll get that far, but her readers stick with her over time, and I wanted to have a big enough idea that I could go on. So Arcane is, you know, looking at religious knowledge and interesting aspects of mystery. that can go on for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I have like 7 ideas. You know, the one after Exodus may well be about the Holy Grail. It might be about Spain and Morgan's father, who was Spanish, a Spanish Jew. And there's a lot about Spain that I love that's fascinating historically. So there's so much I want to do with it. But now, you know, we have so many ideas. There's so many books I want to write.
Exactly. So little time.
Yes.
To finish, you know? Well, that's great. So it has been so much fun. On my blog post with this video, we'll have all the dobby-doo of your links and all of that. And so we'll definitely get all that from you. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. It's been great.